Well, there's two key things you need to know about the inside workings of Cabinet. First of all, the job of a minister is very territorial. They're given a briefing by their own department. So the Minister for Agriculture, the Minister for Transport is there to do one job, to protect their own department. In other words, when a memorandum is created on anything, whether it's legislation, they have what they call OBS, which is observations by other departments. And it's actually the job of the line minister to pick up the baton on behalf of each. So you'd be amazing. It'd be like a group of civil servants talking because they're there to do a job for their own line department. The second point you need to realise is the truth of it is the Cabinet doesn't spend endless hours going through the minutiae. What happens is they have the Economic Management Council where you have the two leaders of the parties, Kenny and Gilmore, you have Noonan and Howlin, and they clear all the tough decisions. So actually, a lot of it is presented as a fait accompli to the Cabinet. And that's the way a lot of cabinets work because, you could actually spend endless hours discussing minutiae of detail. So people say, look, this is the overall top line of what we're going to agree. But the real down and dirty decisions are taken at leadership level. Or what they do is they park issues and then they're just given to the two leaders to resolve.
So they've a series of meetings this week. They're taking 3.8 billion out of the economy. Are you telling me that we don't have ministers in there banging the table demanding that this can't be done or that can't be done?
Well, what they're doing is they're doing it for their own department. They don't actually take a line of FG and a line of Labour. But to be honest with you, the management of time and the management of decisions is in a pyramid structure and it's not as democratic as you might think. They don't have votes at Cabinet. They just say, look, this is agreed or it's not agreed. And there's a bit of horse trading goes on. Every party has their red line issues. It might be, the big red line issues were no primary welfare cut in rates and no income tax for Fine Gael. Those were the respective red line issues. So then within that, you have the issues of the child benefit, the household package, the fringe benefits for the elderly. And I would say myself that really the hardest decisions are always the three big spenders, health, education and welfare on one side and taxes on the other side. The VAT, some of it. But, the great thing about this government is they have the big bad wolf. It's all the Troika's fault. And if it's not their fault, it's the past government that landed us with this legacy.
We'll see how long that excuse will last. But come here, all the other Cabinet members must be looking this week at Joan Burton and going, thank God I don't have social protection.
Yeah, it is a poison chalice within there because it spends 20.3 billion. And you must remember, what's not being spelled out is the Troika were promised that we cut welfare by 10% by over 2 billion. So even if she comes up with 700 million of cuts, and remember, it's a demand-led department. If more people claim on for dole and they're entitled to it, more people, pensioners are living longer.
Our bill goes up.
Yeah, our bill goes up without any policy change.
The News Talk Nation survey we have out today just gives us a great insight into what the electorate is thinking. These are the people who bought all of these promises from Labour and Fine Gael and are now scratching their heads as to why they're not fulfilling them. One of the questions was, how should government find the money it needs to save? Increased taxes, very unpopular, only 4.1%. Cut spending, 40.9%. And a combination of both was the majority, 55.1%. But cut spending, they all want to cut. I mean, do they not think that it affects everybody equally?
Yeah, obviously, it's like poverty someone else's cut. Someone who's not involved in the arts likes an arts cut, the defence spending, whatever you're not having yourself. I did notice in the survey that the old reliables, it was, if you want to pick something that's populist to cut, extra tax on fags, extra tax on alcohol, does get majority support.
Not to the same degree though, because the cigarettes increased the revenue by 77%, so that's all the non-smokers. Increasing revenue on alcohol, that was only favoured by 56%, so not exactly the same endorsement for an increase in
I think, and the higher rate of VAT applies to those products, so that will definitely be hit. And I think the other thing that they're obviously committed to doing is there's a €15 per tonne carbon tax. I think that is going to be doubled as well. So in terms of punditry, I think that is definitely going to happen. It'll have some inflationary impact, but at the end of the day, this is the first time that all of this has been given to the Bundestag. Get over it. Like, we know the details. And in fact, the other thing that cabinet members do, they fly kites. You saw yesterday, €8 cut in the dole last night. Joan Burton saying that's not going to happen. What you actually do is you run up the flagpole on various issues, student fees, whatever it might be, cutting postgraduates. Let's see how this goes. So you give a leak, you're getting friendly with the media, and then you can pull down the flag if it's particularly odious.
Is this what we've learned from Fianna Fáil when they didn't tell anybody about cutting the medical cards for the over 70s, and they had this massive backlash? I mean, there's going to be a backlash against pretty much everything in this budget, but they're just testing the waters.
Yeah, it's a way of road testing proposals, to let them fly, see what the response is, and if there isn't howls and storms of protest, then maybe we could get away with that. But, obviously, whatever way you hack it, look, the top line is 12.4 billion has to be taken out of spending in the economy over the next 3 years. So we're going to have really down and dirty budgets for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, this is only one in a series. The speculation, as Michael Noonan said this morning, is going to end fairly abruptly in 2 weeks' time when he takes to his feet in the Dáil. Just one last finding, Ivan, from the News Talk Nation survey. We asked the question, do you think budget announcements should be made earlier in the year, away from the already pressured Christmas season? 75% said yes. I have a distinct memory of Bertie Ahern with ashes on his forehead delivering the budget. It used to always be in December.
Yes, it used to be the first Wednesday in March, if you go back far enough, because the tax year used to start on the 5th of April. But each year they move it back earlier. They moved to the first week of January. Then they moved it back to December, because each time you actually get a windfall of cash flow. For example, in the overall arithmetic, they were going to raise 1.6 billion in extra tax. Hey presto, 600 million of that comes without any tax increase, because you've the December tax take from last year's decisions on the universal social charge and so on. So VAT at the point of entry. There's various things you can do. Myself, I believe that the calendar year is the right way to go. Most companies, PLCs, are reporting on a calendar basis. Whether you could have the budget in November, remember we had October budgets in 08 and so on. So, but it seems to me the calendar year is the most orderly way to do it. And we have this farcical situation that if people in departments haven't spent money in December, they hurry up and spend it. So you can get a kind of stop-go situation. The converse of that is hospital beds, they run out of money and they close wards. No time to get sick in December.
Yeah, it doesn't make any better budgeting for people as it does come up to Christmas. Though, look, the perception is Labour have it tough. Very hard 2 weeks ahead for them, publicly and privately. There'll be late nights and midnight oil being burned, will there?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you know what? When Kenny and Gilmore and the party whips look over their shoulders, they have a majority of 60. A few people overboard, shrug your shoulders, so what? It's not like they have a majority of a handful of people. We have expendable lobby fodder, get over it, suck it up, end of story.
Anyway, you've done 2 days' work now by us making you stay here. Ivan Yates, presenter of News Talk Breakfast. Thanks for talking to us, Ivan.
Pleasure as always.